We are live.
All
Yep.
right. How are you?
Good, good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm excited for our topic tonight.
Tell me
Um,
all about it.
well, you'll be telling us about a lot of it. The topic tonight is going to be nutrition, how to feed ourselves and our pets for optimal health. And we're also going to touch on supplements, how we can use them to balance and boost our health and those of our pets, and that of our pets, I should say. So, optimal diets and supplements.
And supplements, yes. So, well, hopefully people that are tuning in, this is our fourth episode and you've been following all along and you've been taking very good notes, very being very studious. But we want to keep building on the next subject and just going deeper and deeper. So this is the next evolution of what we've been talking about. And just to recap for newbies, is we realized and have known that the health of our pets has so much to do with our health, that it's a reflection of us, so that it's in our best interest to take very good care of ourselves for ourselves and then for our pet as well. Yeah.
Yeah, you're always so good at putting these things.
Really? Why, thank
Mhm.
you.
Yeah, yes, yeah, yeah,
I, I don't feel like that's always the case, but thank you.
yeah. No, I mean, I don't know about you, but I find that people usually will come to me because their pets have some kind of chronic issue and they want to know how to feed their pets on a more healthy level. And then from there, it takes them into wanting that for themselves or
Yeah,
vice
good,
versa. Do you find
good.
that too?
Well, most people are coming to me for their health, and then later on down the line when they feel like they've gotten a handle on themselves, then they ask me, oh, could you check on my, so and so, and then I'll do that, and then we go into that. But that's because they're not usually initially coming to me for the pet,
Yes.
obviously. And then sometimes I'll be giving a reading. Mind you, it's a remote healing over the phone, and sometimes their pets may come into my awareness and they weren't even asking about their animal, and then we start going in that direction. So you just never know.
That's it. You never know.
Fun, right?
Yeah, always fun.
Yeah. So, a couple of things. One thing that I just want to preface, that I want to get across, but I don't want to. It's almost like giving someone college information and they're still in kindergarten. So let's keep
Right.
that in
Easy.
keeping
Yeah.
that in mind. What I'm going to say, I'd like to, say it in a sober manner. Like, don't, like, when people learn things before they're ready for it. You can get to a point where you can, I'll say, eat crappy food, but maintain a high vibration and stay in alignment and stay in balance and not get sick, right? Like there's a line
Hmm.
that you can dance. And I think the big thing is, the higher your consciousness level is, the more you can, essentially the more powerful you are, literally,
Yeah.
and the more you can play with certain foods, that if you're of a lower consciousness, which frankly most people are, they don't have a lot of wiggle room and they really can't get away with too much, eating garbage food. And that's the majority of the, humanity. But I'm saying, as you raise your consciousness, you can get away with eating junky food, which seems like a contradiction to what we're talking about. So I just want to share that. There was something else, and which is why I always say, like, if you're in a restaurant and you know you're going to be eating something not optimal, pray over your food, obviously. I think I may have shared my friend Jen, who is studying Donna Eden's energy medicine. She will literally wave an infinity symbol over her food before she eats to help, I guess, raise the vibration of the food. So there's things like that that you can do that's going to help, um, how you metabolize what you're eating. So what you and I are teaching is not strictly a black and white type. You know, it's just not black and white. That's all. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, there's a superficial level, and then you can go so much deeper, you know?
Right.
So I think what's important as well is to say that this is a very basic description, or we're going to go through a very basic conversation. So it may not be applicable to everyone, but it's a good starting point, you know?
Yes.
And if someone's having real issues, either with themselves or their pet, they really need to see some, like a professional, like call you or schedule an appointment with their vet or their holistic vet, hopefully,
Yeah.
because the regular vet is going to recommend prescription diets, which are really poor quality.
Yes.
Um, to go a little bit deeper, you know, so this really isn't medical advice. It's just to give some general information so that people have a starting point to work with. And then it's like a good kind of introduction to maybe the beginning of their journey.
Right. And we could call it a foundation, right? We're laying
Yeah,
the foundation.
yeah, yeah.
So that being said, the other point I wanted to make, since we're talking about supplements today, is a big question. The obvious question is, why do we need supplements, right? Why?
Um,
Why?
I know. Well,
um, so let's start that conversation. Most of what I've learned is that it has a lot to do with the soil depletion, that where if you literally took, and I read this, and if you could assess the beta carotene of a carrot from 100 years ago and then compare
mhm,
it to today, the nutrients just aren't there. And then on top of that, so that's across the board, we're eating food that is literally lacking in basic nutrients. And then on top of that, we live in such a toxic environment. It's like, a terrible math equation. So the supplements are literally supplementing your poor diet, whether you're eating conscientiously or not. It's going to help supplement what is not in the food, or what you're not getting because of, or what you've depleted yourself with due to everyday stresses. Like, even when you think even about like the electromagnetic frequencies that are around while we're doing this podcast, that have a depletion on our system, you know.
right, right. Well, I think also too, like so many of the pesticides, you know, like for example, glyphosate,
Mhm.
um, impedes absorption of amino acids from the gut. So that was one of the big issues with this whole topic. Maybe like 2 years ago, there was a big scare about grain-free pet foods and that they were associated with heart disease. And part of the issue, so there was a whole issue with it because the vets who report, or the nutritionists who reported it, it was not a study. It was an observation that they published as an editorial. So it was not an actual study. And all of the nutritionists were compromised. They had, oh my gosh, what do you call it again? They were all employed by like some of the prescription diet companies. And so what came out of that was a bunch of nutritionists who did not have any conflicts of interest, like 13 or 14, published a rebuttal article that basically did a retrospective study of 165 different studies indicating that grain-free diets are not the issue, that one of the issues is actually the pesticides in the food that inhibit amino acid absorption. Um, and so pets were not getting enough taurine, and that was leading to heart issues. So that's the synopsis. So
Wow.
I think it just goes to demonstrate, like looking through that article, it just revealed so much that we don't know about nutrition in general, especially for animals, but also that there are so many toxic factors in our environment that do impede our ability to absorb. So not only are the foods we eating nutrient deficient, but then our bodies are not able to assimilate what nutrients are there. So
Yeah.
it is really important to be able to supplement some of these things when we're having issues.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yes, I was just going on a tangent thinking, and then there's my mother. Only kidding. When we talk
Good.
about environmental stresses, this is a real thing. The people that you live with, I'll keep my mother out of it. the people that you interact with, they are part of your outer environment, and it's going to have a reflection, or it's going to reflect on our inner environment, our gut. It could create skin disorders, because the skin is a symbolic of a boundary if your boundaries are being crossed. Anyway, totally different subject, but
No, but that's
yeah,
very similar, and that's like on an energetic level, but like on a physical level, like we know there's a mind-gut connection. So when there is stress, that disrupts the microbiome, and many of the constituents of the microbiome, like some of them are involved in digestive processes, so digesting your proteins and fats and carbs, and some are involved with maintaining low levels of inflammation or fighting inflammation. And then you wind up, when you have a dysbiosis, then you do see skin issues or chronic GI issues, or emotional issues like anxiety and stress and that kind of thing. So there's so much that we're learning,
yeah,
and so much that we still have yet to know or understand. And so definitely that's where supplementation, say, of probiotics, can be beneficial. So yeah, I mean, I think that's still on topic,
just don't
just in
want
a different way, kind of.
I know, I just don't want to. I tend to go off. No.
Oh, well,
Okay, so
I know. Because it's such an interest, there's so much to it. It's such an
yes,
interesting, fascinating subject. Like we were talking earlier about intermittent fasting in humans, and how if you eat constantly through the day, you can actually become insulin resistant. And I was starting to relate that to cats and diabetes and cats that free feed. And so, I mean, you start talking about one thing and you can go down like so many little rabbit holes. It's fascinating, really
yeah.
interesting.
So yeah, thank you for sharing that. And you mentioned that earlier, but so for our audience, you were saying, like, ideally that they should only be eating like once a day, right?
Well, in the wild, cats only eat once a day. Like they have one meal a day. Um,
That's so un-American.
I know. Um, and so having them, they have to, or they might kill like maybe they'll have a couple meals a day, but they are like
Small,
hunting and then they eat like what they kill, and then they're hunting and then they eat. So they're not just lounging around
right?
and rolling over and eating from cat food, or just like lounging and then mooching over to the bowl and eating something and coming back. There's like activity and food. So there's you know so that's something that we're not seeing now. And I just wondered if, knowing what I know about humans, there are similarities between animals and humans, but I started thinking, I wonder if, I mean, a lot of the diabetic issue on a deeper level with cats is the type of food that they're eating, like they should not be eating kibble. Like that promotes diabetes in cats. And the research proves that. And most feline practitioners are recommending canned food diets only for cats. But I just wondered if like free feeding is contributing to that insulin resistance as well. So
Yeah,
it was
you would think.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's very interesting. And for the most part, like the way you're describing, I've never seen so many obese animals in my life. And it's a good point. Like we're all living like kings and queens, where we just roll over and eat another meal. Like we haven't um earned the calories. We haven't burned off the calories, or created enough. Yeah, we haven't burned them off enough to even warrant another meal, right? It's just
Right.
yeah. So so
Anyway, so now we'll get off our tangents and come back to what we were going to talk about. So like optimal, what do you usually recommend for your clients, like to be feeding themselves optimally?
Okay, so optimal health would include getting off of the white flour completely. And I typically recommend just the like Ezekiel bread, or sprouted grain bread, or any whole grains. But that's still specific to, I'm giving general, but again, if I muscle test someone and they're sensitive to something that I mentioned, that's going to come off the list. But sourdough bread I will recommend. So that's the grain and the bread department. And then I always recommend anything that was that God created, not man-made. Like that's the spectrum. So if it came off a tree, if it came from a vine, there's a good chance it's better for you. If you're eating a root, it's usually a yes. If you don't even bother asking me, it's usually a yes. If it's something that comes in a package, or a box or so, or a can, then I might say no, and I probably will. It's scary, the things that we read on the labels. It's less and less. And when you look at in the supermarket, you can really narrow it down to very few things that I would even consider purchasing and consider it food that's edible, literally
Yeah.
edible.
I read somewhere once that anything that's in a package or a can is considered ultra processed. And
Yeah.
ultra processed foods would be are pro-inflammatory because during the processing, inflammatory mediators are produced. Does that sound like
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so what is inflammation though? It's like it's you think of like the body's under attack,
the
right?
body's response? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it sees this thing as foreign. It doesn't see it as something biochemically akin or in sync, or it's wouldn't anyone would have that response, right? It's like this isn't for me. This isn't me. It's not
Right.
for me, right? So you're gonna have it's not, what's the word?
Recognizable. The body doesn't recognize it. Yeah. As
Yeah,
an equivalent substance, I guess, for example.
it's almost like a war. Yeah, like the body would be biochemically threatened, so it's going to become inflamed. um there is, thank God, and I think this is one of the big, no matter how much, and I used to say this all the time like 20 years ago, no matter how much we get more advanced and should I even say more intelligent, we come up with these crafty ways of creating things to that are advancements. The body still has very simple basic needs that cannot be changed.
Mhm.
And so like designer food, like all
Mhm.
of the designer foods out there, if we can just stick to the basics of something that's organic and naturally occurring, we're going to be fine.
What do you define as designer foods?
Oh god, the- most of the crap in the supermarket, like, okay, like a designer food would be like a diet, oh, like I'm thinking like 20 some odd years ago, like the drinks, like the iced tea that was so popular. I don't know if you what is it called? It's on the tip of my tongue.
You want a Snapple and all that stuff? Like,
No, not Snapple, but that's also in the same category. Anyway, it was some popular iced tea mix forever ago, and it's like a Crystal Light.
oh, Crystal Light. Right.
Okay, like some design, like it's like you're
Fads, kind of like processed fads in a way.
like, what happened to water? If you want a little sweet, put a little lemon or put a little cranberry juice in your water. Like, what are you doing? You can't anyway. So it's stuff like that. It's all most of the desserts, I mean, it's literally everything in the supermarket. So I don't know, to I don't want to pick on any company. It's like 99% of them.
I know. I think it's simply when you say, food that in its natural form, as
Yeah.
opposed to food that's been packaged in a box, in a can, in a bag,
Yeah.
unless it's like apples in a bag or something like that. But yeah, food in its natural form, as opposed to food that's been put into some kind of recipe.
Yeah, you really like when you have the discernment that I've trained myself to have, there like it really narrows down your options. Really, it really gets very narrow. It's like, oh, I can't eat any of this stuff. Any of it. Why would I
Yeah,
want
like
to?
I think when I go to the grocery store, I basically am in the produce market and then or the produce section, and then I'll go to like bread, like if I'm gonna get like Ezekiel bread or
Mhm.
something like that. And then I'll head over to like, I mean, I do, since I'm vegetarian, I don't do milk. So I'll do like coconut milk or whatever. So I tend to stay on the perimeter where those things are. And I think that's what
Yeah,
they talk about too. Most things in the interior are going to be all your processed foods that are
right.
going to have a lot of chemicals in them that can be hormone disruptors and that
Mhm.
can challenge your digestion, affect your microbiome. So it's better to stay with whole foods in general, right?
Yeah, whole foods in general. So we went over the starches. I Potatoes I'm okay with. Any of the root vegetables. Any fruit is fantastic. Fresh, of course, is best. Oils, okay. No oils, no oils, with the exception of like an organic coconut oil. And then there's this one olive oil that I get in Florida called Molina International, I think is the name of the company. And that's the
Mhm.
only one I've been consuming. I don't, Oils are really sketchy because they can get denatured very easily.
Rancid, they become rancid, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you need to use
Yes.
them pretty quickly. Yeah.
I'm I am so like a nut when it comes to, like, if I saute vegetables, I will saute them in water because that's how like concerned I am. I don't want to denature any fats. And then I'll throw some oil on it after, but I usually won't put it under direct heat, just for just. Um Butter, if I buy butter, it's organic. I'd love to get raw dairy if you can. What else do I look for? Organic beans, organic peanut butter, no sugar added. That's the other thing. Not only
Oh
does it have to
gosh.
be organic, it can't, no added sugar. We don't need any more added sugar.
And salt, like high levels of salt as well, I think,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So really basic, boring, simple.
I think preferably also organic, like the
Yeah.
environmental working group has that like, um, oh my gosh, dirty dozen list of the top like 12 fruits and veggies that are treated with pesticides. Then they have the clean 15 ones you don't have to worry so much about getting organic, because organic can be more expensive, which is
Yeah.
kind of like counterintuitive because you're not adding pesticides, the cost of pesticides, but I guess you have to, weigh the cost of preventing pesticides from coming onto your property.
Yeah.
But yeah, organic is definitely preferable. And it
Definitely.
tastes different, if you get like a tomato from like a farmer's market where they've grown, or if you grow it in your yard, so much better taste
Yeah.
than these anemic tomatoes you get in the grocery store. It's
Yeah.
amazing, even lettuce tastes better from your own garden.
Yes. And I have my garden and I love it. And I agree 100%. There's no comparison. Um, Now, with supplements,
Mhm.
switching to supplements, I always like to muscle test somebody for them now, because if you ever go into, a Whole Foods or look on Amazon or wherever you're going to buy your supplements, how the heck do you know what you need? If someone is not, even if you're educated, you still don't know which one you might need. It's just
Mhm.
that simple. You don't
Right.
know. It's all guesswork. And I remember when I was in college thinking, how the heck am I going to prescribe something to somebody? It just because I read an article, like it just, in order to be precise, that's where the muscle testing comes in. Critical. Um, and so that's why I teach to self test. For those who don't have access to me and who want to, if they're in the store and they're like, gee, which one should I get? You can use yourself as a pendulum and see if your body needs it or not. And I highly recommend learning how to muscle test so that you take so much guesswork out. You don't, people, I think of home, they're a lot of money. These supplements add up. So you don't want to buy something that you actually don't even need. Um
Can
the
you explain, so just to explain like to people what it is to use yourself as a pendulum? Like what I would do is like if I wanted to see if this vitamin mineral supplement in general versus this one. Like I would hold it and close my eyes and see how balanced I felt. And if I started feeling off balance, I would know that's not the one for me. But if it makes me feel centered and grounded and solid, then I know that's the one. Is that how you would describe using yourself as a pendulum, or do you have a different way of doing it?
No, yes. But that works fine. That's your, and that's the thing, when you're doing it personally, you're creating your own personal relationship. You have your own inner knowing. It's your own direct experience that you know that you know. But what I have people do who have never done this before, they'll it's actually better to have put it in the hands or open up the bottle,
Mhm.
right? Depending on somebody's level of awareness, all of those things. But if they were to hold it here and get centered, make sure that they're hydrated and that they have no other ulterior motive, like that they're focused. If their body swings back, that's considered a no. And then if their body goes forward, that's a yes. And if their body swings side to side, it's a maybe, or set a different intention or change your intention or your question or whatever. That's my general rule. But yeah, we're saying the same thing, just slightly different. But when it comes to supplements, let's go over. I don't know. Do you want to go over? You mentioned last time. I guess there's no need to reiterate unless you wanted to. Um, what, like, your basic for your animals. We kind of covered that, right? To stick with raw for cats. You want to get into that, or you feel that?
Yeah, I think we covered a good bit of it. I mean, in general, for dogs, I recommend like either home cooking or, I mean, I think that raw, like pre-made raw and freeze-dried are the best for dogs and cats. And then next tier down would be like home cooking or dehydrated, but they're all minimally processed diets, like no dry food, no kibble, no canned food.
Mhm.
Um, in general. And so like people who are cooking, you got to be so careful because there's so many different recipes online and they are not complete. So there's some websites that can help you formulate a complete diet, like Balance It would be a typical one. I don't like some of the oils they use and stuff, so I would do a lot of substitutions, but at least it can give you an idea of how balanced the diet is that you're feeding your pet, you know? And I definitely recommend rotating um, between brands and flavors like proteins,
Yep.
because that's how they obtain all their nutrients. Like if you feed your dog or cat chicken or turkey all the time, they're not going to get iron, that's in beef. If you're doing beef all the time, they're not going to get taurine, which is in chicken and turkey. So you got to rotate. And their
Yes.
bodies should be able to do that. Like any vet that tells you a dog should eat the same food or a cat should eat the same food every day is not being truthful. In the wild, they do not do that. They
Right.
change what they're eating all the time based on what they can find, right? No
Right.
problem. We eat different food like each meal of the day. So, I mean, I changed Finn, my dog doesn't get this, he gets breakfast, something a little bit different for dinner or for lunch. Like if I send him to daycare, he has like a snack at lunchtime. And then dinner is different as well. So definitely variety, minimally processed. And if you're
Yeah.
cooking, you got to make sure it's balanced. So you either want to talk to your vet about it, check out Balance It. Some veterinary nutritionists will offer like uh general recipes online. So if you check like with some of the veterinary universities like NC State or I'm not sure about Cornell, but some of them will have like basic recipes online that you can check out. There's a couple of other veterinary websites as well that give just general recipes. And if your pet does have like kidney disease or liver disease or whatever, your vet can talk with a veterinary nutritionist and create a couple of different diets that you can home cook for your pet because that's infinitely better than putting them on a prescription diet for whatever disease it is, kidney, liver, etc.
Yeah.
Percent.
And then, right, and then work on the owner's kidney issues. Right.
Yes, yes. Or emotional issues, or because
Yeah.
that's excretory. So what are they trying to get rid of? Or yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the topic of supplements, I'll go through some of the basic supplements that I would recommend to someone, but it's not person specific, but I'm just giving general.
Yeah.
So 99% of the time I'm prescribing something from standard process.
Mhm.
If it's not standard process, it's rare and we don't need to get into that. But the
They're a
main,
wonderful company. I mean, their products are organic. They do tons of research. Um, I mean, their facility is beautiful. I think we both have been there. It's just
yeah,
amazing. Yeah. Their
yeah.
products
And
are really excellent.
I love so the backstory about standard process is that Royal Lee was a dentist. and he was noticing he wanted to create a formula to help people with their oral health, and that's how he formulated Catalin, which is their first product. It's a multivitamin that he developed in 1929, and the company's been around for like 95 years now, and I call it like the grandfather of whole food companies, because anyone that's coming out now or is more recent is only going to piggyback off of what they've started.
Mhm.
So I like to just stick with them.
Yes, and their products are herbal, nutritional, and glandular. So it's all, yeah.
So that we've already talked about Catalin being their multivitamin. I would start somebody off on that. I find that most people do need two types of support for their health, like almost guaranteed. Some type of adrenal support.
Oh gosh,
So,
yeah. Yeah.
right? So when it comes to supplementation, it would be from standard process, something like Drenamine or desiccated adrenal, for instance.
Mhm.
There's other ones. I'm just going off the top of my head. Um, the other area that I would support almost always is the stomach area with some type of digestive enzyme, either Zypan or betaine hydrochloride. Those two most likely I would use for someone in the beginning, and then I'd go from there. But almost always across the board, those are the areas. Now, there's two more that are very common, which I should give more emphasis, which is the essential fatty acids.
Mhm.
Critical, 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 because of the type of refining that our food supply has. We have depleted we just don't get it in our diet. It's found in fish, it's found in walnuts, it's found in flax seeds. That's pretty much it. I pretty sure think maybe some algae in, but I don't want to say. But so what I always recommend is something like tuna oil or
Mhm.
cod liver oil or flaxseed oil in supplementation form from them. And then lastly, most people need some type of calcium support, and they have so many different types of calcium. This is why you can read something, but then it's like, okay, but which one do I need? Is it
Right.
Biast? Is it Biodent? Is it calcium lactate? Is it bone forte? I mean, you can go on and on. There's so many calciums. Calamo, Calma Plus. so
Mhm.
so those are the big ones. And then maybe then an acidophilus, and then you go into more specific to the person's chemistry. So
Yeah.
that's yeah. So I don't know. Um, I don't if you want to what do you use for animals? Probably the multi, and you start with that, or
Yeah, it's like on a basic level, if someone was just swapping over from processed foods like kibble and canned food and they were going to start home cooking, then
yeah,
definitely a multivitamin.
yeah,
So in the animal portion of, like, I do use this live standard process, but I'll use some thorn. Like, I don't use chew
yeah,
tablets. I'll use the powder. They have a
nice,
multivitamin, like canine basic formula and a geriatric formula. So I might use that. But in standard process, a whole body support is like the animal equivalent of Catalin.
yeah,
Or sometimes, like in bigger dogs, I might use Catalin because it's more economical.
nice,
Standard process, they have like a veterinary line and a human line, and they recommend more the animal line for like, or the veterinary products for animals. But I feel for me, I don't feel they're as targeted as the human line. So I use a lot of the human line for pets, as a lot of other holistic vets do. So
yes,
there's a lot of mixing and matching. But so if someone's gonna switch over, then I want to try to boost their their vitamins and minerals, because they probably haven't been getting a lot, and I want to try to even that out. So I'll do that for a while. Definitely some type of probiotic. So like symbiotic they have with standard process. I love the company Adored Beast. It's a female-owned company. Every ingredient in her product has a purpose. There's no inner or inactive ingredients. So she's got a bunch of great probiotics available and digestive enzymes. So those would be kind of the three main things I would do:
mhm,
multivitamin, mineral supplement, probiotics, digestive enzymes, and then other things would be based on, what the animal's issues are, and we would go from there. But
Yeah.
that's kind of like a good basic formula to start with.
Sounds very similar. Very
Very
similar.
similar, very similar. Yeah, yeah.
If people are, if people want to start to get on supplements, they can, feel free to contact me, and I'm going to get my website is going to be directly hosting the, the standard process. You can order right from my site.
Mhm.
I don't know if you have a, what your, I should have said something like, do you have a setup like that, or you just order it and then, um,
No, I have an account with them. So,
yeah,
I mean, I carry the supplements in my clinic so that I can dispense them. But if I have clients who are going to be on it regularly, then I just set them up with their own account through my account, and then they
yeah,
can order it that way as needed, rather than having to go through me as the middle person. So
right,
it's a
right.
lot easier
That's,
that way. Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
It's nice. It's nice that they have it set up like that. And I do remember when I first started with them, they didn't have the vet line, and that's all we used, right?
Right.
That was
Mhm.
all that was available. So that's what you used if you wanted.
Yeah, and there are a lot of supplements in general that we know are effective in pets, but they don't necessarily have them formulated specifically for pets. So we can extrapolate them. So based on like research showing effects, then we can extrapolate dosages based on like adult body weight and kind of configuring it for pet body weight then. Yeah. So
Okay.
that's what I do with standard process. I actually have one of their old books. I don't think they have it anymore, but it'll tell you like dosages for animals for the human products. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Which I'm so grateful I have it. Yeah.
Yep, I love those old books. I have, I have my old library, all the good stuff.
I
So,
know.
I think this should, do you feel complete? I feel like this is a good,
Yeah, I think so, because I think in general it gives a good idea about a place for people to start. I mean,
yeah,
you are just starting the journey. So as you were saying at the beginning, like a good foundation for
yeah,
them to go with. I think also I just want to throw out there for people who are starting it for their pets. There are two really good books that can teach you a lot about feeding your pets. One is called Feeding Dogs, and that's by Dr. Connor Brady. And the other one is called The Forever Dog by Karen Becker and Rodney Habib. Um, so they have some really good, there's great information there about current pet foods and optimal diets for pets.
maybe we can put that in the
Oh
description,
yeah, we could do
right?
that. Yeah, yeah.
Cool. All
Yeah.
right. Well, I hope this was helpful for everyone. I think we did a fine job of laying down foundation. And yeah, I'm trying to think. And then if people want to go, experiment, explore what we're offering, and then when they hit a wall and they're like, okay, I've gone this far, now I want to fine tune or I want to go deeper, set up an appointment, and we will
Right.
be happy to help.
Yeah.
But I mean, you don't need a practitioner to tell you to eat an apple.
I know. I know. But if you need some more direction, I guess, or you're looking for more information, then
Yeah.
certainly, like people can schedule appointments and go deeper,
So,
into the realm of general health,
yes,
nutritional health,
yes.
nutritional health.
I love it. I know we love it. What we do.
We do, because it's fun and it makes pets and people feel good. That's what's
Yeah.
important. Yeah.
So they
Yeah.
can get their life back.
Right. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Cool.
So thank you all for listening,
Yes. Thank you.
and I hope you enjoyed all of this fun stuff, and we'll have those books available so you can order them, and until next time.
All right. Good night.
Ta ta for now.
Peace out.